Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dealer Chat podcast. Today, with Rob Cubitt of Cubitt Cars, once again, has joined us as James of Chops Garage can't join us. We may or may not have David Gott of the Lovely Car Company. He's meant to be here, but, you know, he likes to be fashionably late. And this week, our special guest is James Alford of the Platinum Car Centre and the Platinum Trade Centre as well. Dave may turn up, but he may not. And as I say, Chops can't make it today because we're actually delivering a couple of cars to me, so I'll let him off. I don't think he's going to turn up here, but James, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
For
Glad
those,
to be.
for those of us who don't know you, don't know what you're about, all that sort of stuff, can you just give us a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, your businesses, that sort of thing?
Okay, so I have a car dealer garage down in Plymouth. So I think we've got 50, 60 second-hand cars. Try and keep it below sort of 15 grand, ideally around sort of 7 to 10, just because of where we are in the world down in Plymouth. And I also have a van dealership a linear mile down the road, and that's relatively new. So about 2 years into that one, just selling commercial vehicles. So I was starting to fill the place up with vans because we like selling vans, and then all of a sudden you're like, separate them because they're two very, very different customers. And then another side of me is I am a professional racing driver, as you might be able to see in the background. We've had a little bit of success over the years, and that's sort of my real passion. And obviously, at some point, the garages have facilitated that to put me in a position where I could succeed. So for that, I'm ever grateful. But all I do care about now is racing, not cars.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know. So if you go on your website, the first thing that comes up is like a fully race prepared Golf. That is what
I've just seen that
car or something. I think he's frozen. He just wants to stay permanently with that smug grin on his face.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that guy. It looks quite cool, that Golf.
Yeah, very cool. Is it a kind of as a R or a GTI?
I think it's down as a GTI. Yeah, 2 litre, mind you. It's down as a GTI, isn't it? But is that even road legal? Looks mega, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't know, but it's a hell of a track car, isn't it? Down in Plymouth, and I don't think the internet's very good down there, judging by how we've started out. Oh, he's gone. He's probably logging out and coming back in.
I've just, funnily enough, I didn't know what he did, so I've just been on now having a look at his website. He's got some, having 2 businesses is quite some going, isn't it? But that used car pitch looks mega, to be fair. He's got some interesting stuff in there. It's not just total bread and butter, is it?
No, we're definitely not trying to find it now. Yeah, I'm interested to talk to him about his sort of trade centre as well, because I wasn't quite sure. James, I sort of met because he reached out and was like very generously like, I do some racing, and because he must have seen us do track days and was like, if you ever want to come along and, you know, hang out. Which I haven't done yet, but we'll do.
The thing is about racing, is it have you done track days before then, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the time that goes into it, isn't it? Yeah, it's the load.
Oh, and the expense as well, because you just think, oh, it's 200 quid for a track day, and then you turn up, but it's like driving there, the fuel for the car on the track, you know, it's 100 quid for the day. Then you shred through tires.
Yeah.
Then, everything.
True.
Then you shred through brake pads, and if you're not up for doing it yourself, you've got to have someone there to do it for you.
Yeah, they are epic though, to be fair. It's just it's getting that time to do it. I've got an old, you've not seen my Impreza, I've got an old Impreza down here.
When I looked at your channel, I haven't really looked at the videos, but I did watch one where you said you weren't sure what you're doing with it, and you weren't sure if you were going to sell it, but then I can see it's still in the background, isn't it? So
yeah. It's one of them things, isn't it, mate? Like 13 years, so you think, do you get rid of it or do you keep it? But I've literally not even fired it up this year. So pointless.
Cool. I do like an Impreza.
There's a little inner chav that loves them. It's the way people look at it.
I like them. I like anything that's a bit different. So when you've got the boxer engine, like, you know, having like an Impreza, everyone loves them and they tune them up and whatever, but it just sounds like a 4-cylinder, whatever. Whereas the Impreza, at least it's got that burble and it sounds really cool and it's a bit, you know.
Exactly, yeah. So I had the choice. It's either going to be Impreza or Evo. I bought it. Yeah. And for the noise, had to be Impreza. We've got a man connecting here by the looks of things.
Unfortunately, though, like financially, you would have been better off if you bought the Evo, I expect.
Oh,
Those have gone ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, I could have so many choices I had. I was going to buy an Escort Cosworth at the time as well, and I didn't buy that either. So it's not like I do it for a job.
No, no, I know. Yeah, you should know these things. The amount of cars that I've sold now, I was like, oh, do you know what? For a bit of nostalgia, I'd go and buy one. And now I'm like, Jesus, look at the price. You know, like
Yeah.
little Renault Clio Williams type thing and whatever. Sold mine. It wasn't Williams. I had a 1.8 16 valve, the Mark One that had the plastic flared arches and the bonnet scoop and all that sort of stuff. Really, really cool. And sold it for like 600 quid with a bit of a slipping clutch, I think. And
Yeah.
you can't buy a snotty one for 4 grand now.
Yeah, it's mad. Everything out of Vauxhall Nova Boy. And so many have been destroyed by me.
Yeah, one of my mechanics or ex-mechanics, he's just bought himself one, but yeah, they've gone crazy in price as well.
Yeah, all gone mad.
Are you back, James?
Yeah, I've got a story that goes with that. One of the guys down in the front office in sales, we got like our server down in the sales office. They got like a little office. They walked back in, just absolutely smashed his head on our router and knocked it off the wall.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I watched it live. I got like a big live camera feed here in my office.
Oh,
really?
really?
What's going on here? And then obviously, and then you guys just disappeared. I was like, there we go.
Yeah, I was just slagging off the internet in Plymouth, saying it's probably just not very fast down there.
Plymouth in general, I think, Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. You got like you're Western Supermare, aren't you? That's proper bandit country up there.
Basically,
Like we talk about that. We talk about you like that. You talk about us, and everyone slates Cornwall properly, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no.
I'm near Bradford.
Where are you?
Near Bradford, so fire away.
It explains
I
it
haven't really
all.
got much to say if I want my car stolen.
Yeah, there it is.
So James, are you back? Obviously, you said you got your. Sorry, first of all, let's talk about the racing. What sort of series are you racing in at the moment?
So we race with the British Racing and Sports Car Club. So I do endurance racing. So it's slightly different. So we have multiple pit stops, and it normally goes on between 2 hours up to some of them are a little bit longer. We've got some 6-hour races, but I'll share a car with somebody for those, and we do a lot of 45-minute races as well. But that's a long time inside the car, but it also allows a lot of seat time for you and like your racecraft. And you race differently to what sometimes you see on the TV. Yeah. So British touring cars, they've got 15 minutes, get to the front, hook up by crook, smash everything to pieces in the process. I try to avoid that. This season, I haven't. I've had a lot of crashes this season, but I've had a great time. I don't care regardless. So
yeah. I guess it's very different, isn't it, when you're doing short sort of sprint circuit. Well, I keep on calling it short circuit from motorbike stuff, but yeah, you aggression versus trying to nurse the car around for endurance, keep your tires good and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a mental battle as much as it is a physical battle. Obviously, I train as much as I can. I try and get in sort of 4 or 5 times a week, but nothing prepares you.
Where's your next race meeting?
I've actually got a bit of a summer break now because I am turning 40 this year. I've done 16 years of car sales now, so I've decided that I'm going to have like a little summer break for me. So not racing on the head for a month, taking all the family down to Spain in a villa, and I'm just going to do an aggressive amount of sitting, and hopefully they've got that Cruz Campo nearby on tap, and I'm just going to try and ignore the world apart from on Wednesday when there's an auction.
Fair enough. So you're still doing the buying, even though you're going to be, yeah.
You don't switch off. Like I say you do. I know my phone will be on. I know I'll be sat there checking the cameras, but at least I'll be in the sunshine.
Yeah. I think if you dedicate yourself a bit of time where you're not going to work, it's hard to convince yourself to do it. But once you do, I think you will enjoy it and appreciate it. I take it you've got a good sort of team then that are going to be managing and running day to day.
Yeah, a lot of my guys. So I had a business in 2010 that ran to 2017, and then I split up with my ex-wife and I left the business to her, and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to do it again. And it was a bit of a luxury because I got to do all the stuff that I wanted to do differently that time around. Right. So before, I had a 8,000 square foot indoor unit selling reasonably priced cars, nothing out of the box. I had a few cherry cars, you bought some cool stuff. Back then it was I had what was that? What were those Vauxhall engine things with an LS2 lump in it? The Monaros, had a couple of those.
Oh yeah.
A couple of Subaru. Like I had some nice cars in there, but then I realised that you're paying sometimes for the overheads and the fancy building. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have a go at the other end of the scale. And I took on a yard with a porter cabin. And do you know what? I had so much fun. I cannot tell you how satisfying it is knowing that if it's a little bit quiet, those, the bills aren't 6, 7, 8, 9,000 pound a month to survive the pretty lovely workshop. Yeah, sometimes it's cold in the winter. You got to bang the ice off the toilet if you want to go for a wee, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do when it goes in the middle. And fortunately, we found where we are now, which is sort of slap bang in the middle of the two.
Yeah.
So we got a nice bit of office space, but a nice bit of outside. The van centre is a little bit different because it came across in a bit of an oddball way, whereas a family member bought a building that was a double glazing company. And he said, James, why don't you just go and sell vans from there? Because you got loads of vans. I was like, all right, that sounds like a great idea. But looking back at it, it was a big commitment at a wrong time, but we've made it work. So that side of it, I'm delighted with.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. I was going to ask you about the van side and the trade centre and that sort of stuff, because it's something I've always, how did it come about? You just sell vans and you did sort of well with them, or?
Right. I've got a couple of confessions to make. They're not bad ones. It's not terrible. There's no crimes about to be committed here. I really hate people. I am not a people person. I've been doing sales since I was 18. And eventually you get to a point where your body the bullshit filter's gone completely. And I can't tolerate it. I've got nothing there for people, like proper Ian Beale moment. And when I'm forced in front of people to sell something and they lie to the trigger for me is when people lie to me, like to my face. And I've got to walk away from that person. I'm like, do you know what? I'm not here to be lied to. I'm not going to give you like a nice, bushy, wonderful version of me if you're just going to sit there and lie to me. So I'll just walk away. But now all my guys know that I'm not allowed anywhere near customers just because I'll just tell them to fuck off.
Yeah,
that's
fair enough. I think, do you know what? I think that comes maybe with just running your own business, and rather than, because I'm amazed at what the people who do sales for me can put up with, because I can't. And I would say the same. I hate people, but on the flip side, I absolutely love people as well. And I think it just depends on the situation I'm in. But like you say, people, if they stitch you up, if they treat you in a certain way, they've got expectations of you, like you're a dodgy car dealer or whatever, or when they complain about things and they're kind of lying about the situation, that's when I sort of come out of the back office. I'm like, hold up, that's not the truth, is it? And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm sorry I came out and spoke then, but I couldn't tolerate it. A bit like you, it's.
Well, the problem is they disappoint me every day. Like the other thing that bothers me is like they'll throw my guys under the bus. They'll say, oh, I said this to you, I said that to you. And all of our complaints now, I've got a young lady that works in one of the different offices that only does it via email. So we've got like an email trail of what's doing, because we've been lied to so many times, we've been stitched up so many times. Like we've had courtesy cars handed back to us, like pretty much on their roof, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know how that happened," And it's again and again and again and again. So I sort of hide in my little sort of space, stay away from people. I absolutely love the guys that work for me. They are magnificent humans, and if they've got something personal that they want to deal with, I'll always look after them. They are my sole focus. I don't care about anything outside of it. They're the people that I care about in my business. I will always put them way before my customers.
Yeah.
Every day of the week. So because they're my guys. They're the guys that look after
they're your
us.
family. You're gonna have to stay with them. Customers come and go, and if you upset them, sometimes you can't avoid it. But yeah, your team. Yeah, I think I'm very similar in that regard. Funny enough, I heard a saying the other day, or it's probably one of these absolute dickhead like business gurus online. But it was like, that when you start a business, your sole focus is pleasing your customers. Then after a certain point, when you've established yourself, your sole focus should be pleasing your employees, because then they're going to be happy and they're going to look after your customers regardless. So I'm exactly the same,
It was Richard Branson, wasn't it, who was mad about that, taking care of his staff.
Yeah, he's my guy. I've done his book. Yeah, he's beautiful.
Yeah.
absolute beauty. Because he walked into a meeting once, didn't he? He said it about a thing, and he goes, they were yapping about all sorts of figures and stuff, and he goes, "Am I doing all right?" And they were like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I don't understand what you're talking about." He goes, "Am I doing all right? Have I got a good team?" And they were like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm good."
Actually, I've heard he's done all right.
Yeah. A couple of people told me he was doing all right. So
exactly, yeah. Word on the grapevine.
We've got some real weird systems in here. So I make sure that I buy everyone lunch on a Friday, just to sort of like finish the week. So we normally have pizza Friday, KFC Friday. I met a couple of guys along the way that I've worked for in the past, and they supply like food, drinks, sweets, crisps. I keep all of that here on site for my guys, completely free. So the fridge is always full, as much as I can. Some of them are gannets, ice lollies, all that sort of stuff. I just want it to be a nicer working environment, or as nice as it can be when they're not home. So when they do want to come here, I've got one lad that works for me. He can't wait for his holidays to end. Always wants to come into work. Loves it here. Like, hand on heart. If you ask him, he tells you how much he loves it. He is like a younger version of Gerald of Clarkson's Farm. He's amazing. And he's done 12 years with me in total.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm not quite like that, wanting to stock the fridge, but if I go down the shop to get something for myself, I'll come back with the donuts, and I do the same thing. Like, I don't do it every Friday. I mean, we could, but I do say to the guys that if we hit like, let's sell 30 cars this month, we'll all go out for a curry together on me, and a few things like that. But
I think it's bits here. And sorry, Joe. I think it's little bits here and there, isn't it? So, a little bit of cash or whatever, or someone's come in and we've had people come in and do people come in and get the cars validated by Callum, who's kind of like fast becoming the right hand man, and they'll give us a tip. And that's always Callum's. Do you know what I mean? Rather than yours as a business owner. So I think you're both absolutely hitting the nail on the head with that one. But I know exactly what you mean, James, about customers, and I'm at a point now similar to you guys where you're just thinking, they open the mouth, some of you just think, oh, and I'm the liar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're the real liars, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got the reputation. So we've got a few at the minute. We've got 2 part exchanges that are coming in, and they've stuffed us on both of them. And they've stuffed you. And one of them is putting a warranty claim in on the car they bought from us. And it does make you question the sort of, the reality of the situation and whether or not it's actually worth pursuing sometimes, isn't it? You just think everything's against you, you're the bad guy, but actually in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the problems come from the people that walk in the door. Sadly, not all of them, but I can see why you hide in your office. I wish I could do the same.
I can't explain. We're quite good now. We've sort of got our part exchanges sort of buttoned up. Obviously, with what you do, it's a lot easier for people to hide the bigger monster stuff. Like, we can come in, plug our stuff in. We know if it's a bang average car, Nissan Qashqai, you can't really hide a lot on something like that. Whereas some of the stuff that you have to deal with, it's an absolute nightmare for you. And the bit that, this is the big thing that always gets me, is the fact that they'll come in, sit down, look you in the eye, and be like, "Oh yeah, it's been a lovely car." And I always think to myself, why the fuck are you changing it then? Yeah, it's so lovely. Why are you changing it? And if be honest for me. I could be your friend. I remember when I first did it, I used to tolerate it, and I was like, look, I can be your friend. Like, I'd love to sell you 10 cars. And I've got one of my, in fact, both of my guys at the moment that are in the sales, and the vans more importantly, but I'll come to the vans in a minute. It's a relationship thing. Like, it's not just the purchase of the car. The piece of metal is pretty irrelevant. People buy from people. And my guys down there, they sell cars in light of seeing them for the next 4 or 5. They've been with me quite a long time. I think hopefully they'll stay with me a bit longer. And the way they sell at the moment is that's how it's done. They look after those people. And now if there is an issue, do the best we can to sort it out so they come back. The vans, on the other hand, I'm jealous of the van centre. I'm not going to lie to you. They have the best time. So they basically get to work with builders, squaddies, scaffolders, people that are converting vans. Like, they come down there, they are the best customers. Like, their expectations of reality. They're like, yeah, it's got a dent on it. Yeah, it's done 50,000 miles. Yeah, it probably was a van that's been loaded up all its life. I'm just delighted to have a van. This is a new part of my life. I'm excited. Those customers are amazing. I wish they could all be like that. And that's why John, that works down at the van centre, he has such a great time. He like every time he sees them, it's always first name terms. Goes, you all right, bye? Come back for another van? And they're like, do you know what? Yeah, I have. My other lad wants a new van now, and we'll sell a company 5, 6, 7 vans. It's amazing. Cars is obviously slightly different, but the van side of it, it's a real different business model. You need to sort of know what you're dealing with a little bit, but it is very different. Warranty claims are quadruple, treble, whatever they are. They're a lot more because obviously it's a big bit of kit. But sometimes, I don't know if you know the ins and outs of it, we really don't have to cover anything van related, especially if it's business to business. Yeah. We do just because we think it's only fair, and that with a lot of them. And it seems to have done really well, and I'm hoping it's going to continue expanding.
Is it 30 days? Is it business to business, something like that? That he's got to be fit for purpose? Is it, or nothing?
No, nothing.
Really?
They're not a consumer, are they? In the sense of a Consumer Rights Act, they're a business. It's a business to business transaction, so that the consumer rights don't come into it, do they?
Yeah,
gonna get some vans.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very different world. But at the same time, like, you can only go around skinning people for so long. If you go around,
yeah. I mean, there's
that,
I mean that there is that, but yeah, if you want to have a successful and established business that lasts, you can't treat people like that and expect to carry on. Can you just be like, nah, mate? Yeah, I know that. Now the engine started cold, it rattles like hell, and you only heard it warm. Tough luck. It's just not really going to fly, is it? But it's interesting to hear, because I always thought exactly the same with the commercials, that you get the kind of much easier customers. And I wanted to try and stock a few because I haven't got another site like you have. I was interested to hear, I was going to ask you whether your trade site was on the same location or not, whether you just kind of split it in half and had vans one side, cars the other. Because I don't know, it could just be a case that when I've had like 6 or 7 vans in stock, they seem to sell quite well. And I've got my little, where I am now, which is my farm, it's just 4 acres of whatever, where I can park them, keep them kind of off-site because I'm limited to space. But I guess when you kind of like, you've got less on site, they seem to sell less well. In fact, I've got one out there now. Maybe I'll send you a picture, see if you want to take it trade. But
I love it.
It's a high top transit with it's I don't know, it's all ex-fleet something, so it's got
fine
inverter, all that sort of stuff in it.
We call them mobile sheet penetration units.
The what?
Mobile sheet penetration units. That's what we call them, the high top ones.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Is there not an argument? Just thinking about it, James, and you correct me here, but if you have your vans and your cars together, would you not get some of your van people coming in and going, right, I need a van for my bricklaying business or whatever, and there's a nice little Corsa out there for my son, or a Qashqai for the wife, or could you not potentially merge the two together in the way that you're sort of taking the customer from one and put them in a car or another, or does that not necessarily?
The website links itself in between each other, so it's very together. And we've got a system down here, so we're really involved with Plymouth Argyle Football Club. So we've got sponsorship deals, which they sort of on match day they merge in between each other, and everyone knows sort of like the Platinum brand as both cars and vans now, because they know the trade centre's trade, the van centre's van centre. So we do get a lot of people. We part exchange cars in at the van centre as well, which a lot of dealerships don't do. So we'll take a car, bang it up. We'll take a van, bang it down, and it's a nice sort of setup in that respect. So yeah, it's easily done. I see what you're saying. Like the opportunity, we notice that opportunity straight away, and it does work sometimes. But the only downside is you can't make them two set. You can't make them one purchase. Otherwise, they mold into one. They become a consumer.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to separate the two of them.
I like the sound of it. I think you've got a great business model there. Great.
Yeah, I wanted to do something similar. It feels like once you've got a car site, then it's like, well, I'll have a trade site. It's like a next step. I don't know. For me, it always felt like, it feels like another branch, it's kind of the same, but it's not the same. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to go, because the other thing I'm thinking is, and I shouldn't be saying this probably on the podcast, but it's just like there isn't anyone else around me that does your, bread and butter commercials. There are people who local to us that convert you know, 50 grand VW transporters into fancy ones with wheels and stuff like that. But no one in our immediate area within 10, 15 miles is just selling you white panel vans and stuff like that. And I feel like there should be a good market to do that. But when I tie up a lot of money in it and then they don't seem to be selling as fast as the cars, I'm a bit like, maybe I should have just had more cars.
It's tough call. Tell you what we were thinking about recently, which is motorhome rentals. You might have seen us on the trade page not so long ago going, anyone got a motorhome having a bit of a midlife crisis? I kind of look at those because I was looking at an Airbnb, looking at sort of trying to just go in different directions, not necessarily as part of the business, but just let's try and find other income streams. And then we've sort of fallen on this motorhome idea. There's a company up here that does it, and they do all sorts of like wedding things, wedding cars, and split screen vans and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, it'd be interesting. Have you guys ever thought about that as an idea potentially, or
we've had a family member that did it?
Yeah,
we had a family member that did it. A lot of people have done it down this way, and people are the problem again. Unfortunately, they break shit. They don't tell you. We had one of them, he drove it from the UK here to the Czech Republic, left it there. But the problem you've got is a lot of people don't realise, like, you know, and again, people, you just don't know what they're going to do. Like some of the stuff they do is just unreal. And he just said they were just damaging it all the time. If they couldn't figure out how to work it, they were just like yanking it to a point where it broke, you know? So it just depends. I think the companies that seem to do quite well doing it, they've got 6 brand new ones that they lease. Okay. They're in a position where they can get everything repaired very quickly somewhere locally because people do break stuff. And when they break down, they've got a system ready for them to break down. Because unfortunately, the motorhomes do break down. Because it's normally the people that hire them are the people that have never driven a 9-meter long vehicle before. And they're the ones that take the side off, take the rear corner off, break the water heater, leave the water heater on for 6 hours, burn it out. That's unfortunately the realism of who your customer. People like you and I can, like, you know, we'd get in a motorhome, we'd spend 40 minutes trying to figure it out. Like, I'm about as autistic as they come. Like, I know you mentioned it before, Joe, you're exactly the same as me. I can't watch TV until I line my remotes up in a line. There's no way I'm driving a motorhome anyway until I know how everything works. So it is a danger. And like you said, you'll get someone that'll just come in, start the keys, drive off, and be like, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
They're the ones
bossing around. I don't know what that is, but it turns out the chemical toilet was throwing itself all over the bathroom or something.
yeah. I could smell something, but I just carried on.
Yeah.
And then they'd phone up and complain to you. There's shit everywhere. You're the last person who used it, so whose shit do you think it is?
Exactly. You've got my shit all up the wall.
Yeah. I did think about it as well, Robert, because I was 4 years ago, I started converting a long wheelbase high top transit van for myself, and I put chunky tires on it. It was going to go grey, and I was kind of doing it myself. And I thought, it's not that expensive to do this. You could make these kind of like, what do they call them? Like, I want to say like offlander or whatever, overlander type thingies, but it would have a bit of a spin because it would look, you know, a bit like off-griddy. You'd have solar panels and stuff. Yeah. And then I smashed the corners off of it and whatever, just driving it around and whatever. And I think, God, it's okay even if you take £1,000 kind of security deposit, but you've still then got to get it booked in and fixed. And, you know, you might have someone queued up to book it the next week. But I think a bit like James says, if you, the people who probably do well with it, like us, because it is literally like caravan and motorhome central around here, are the people who already like sell all of them and they've got the workshops and it's just like a bolt on for them. That probably works really well. Like I said, we need to look after it.
A mate and I were looking at, because we've got a canal really close to us, so we nearly bought a barge recently. And we're going to sort of do it all up, and you're already laughing. You've been here, haven't you? So we were going to do it all up, and the idea of Airbnb it, and then we started looking into where can you moor it, and you've got to move it every time, and all this sort of stuff. And then you're just like, I wonder what the insurance is like, and what if someone drowns? And you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, the common denominator here with problems is the people, isn't it? So
the thing is, if a car breaks down, it's a headache. If a motorhome breaks down, it's an expensive headache because it needs to go on a wrecker. Imagine if someone crashes the barge into a lock because they couldn't figure out how to slow it down. It's crumpled the front end, it's taken on water, and you need to go and fix it. You don't just send out the fucking AA, do you?
We'd be on the telly. That'd be the first thing.
Yeah.
Local barge owner
Yeah.
in Titanic scandal.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is a problem, isn't there? There's no easy way to make money. I don't know about you. I feel like I got into cars because I felt like it was quite an easy way to make money. And again, there's probably the problem with customers and things like that is like the bigger you get, the more you have to do all the things that I hate doing, which is just being really kind of like almost like corporate. Like, here's your part exchange form. Here's your courtesy car form. It's so much easier when you're doing a few and you're like, yeah, you can borrow that car. Don't worry about it. And it's whatever. But the more and more it is, and the more people can screw you over, and the bigger they think you are as well, the more likely they are to screw you over.
Agreed with that. I've noticed that since I started doing sort of nicer cars and making the showroom look pretty, it almost like people see you as an open checkbook now. Go, well, they're doing all right. They don't see the absolute chaos in the background, but they're just going, oh, well, if anything goes wrong, Rob will pay for it. Don't worry about it. Like, I left a skidder on the seat. Rob will put a new seat in it, or whatever it might be, whatever sort of fantasy they've come up with. So yeah, I think back to the old unit that we had, which was kind of really run down. If the roof was an umbrella, you wouldn't buy it. It used to piss in at every angle. But I tell you what, I absolutely loved it. Probably similar to your porter cabin type setup, James, where it was just spit and sawdust. People knew what you were. They bought a car. You did what you could to help them out. And it was just proper people, proper cars. And you kind of sometimes think, have you ended up down the wrong avenue just because you want to look like you're doing? Is it an ego thing? And actually you're missing the point sometimes. Hey up.
Oh, look out.
Hello. Fashion be late.
It said on the meeting 4 o'clock. So I thought, oh, it must be 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's at that, but
sorry.
that's all
So
right.
I'm at a garage picking a car up now. So
same time, same place every week, Dave.
Sorry, mate. I know. Yeah. No worries.
Don't worry. No worries.
Right. Yeah, but I'll let you get back on anyhow.
No worries. Nice to see you.
At a garage picking up another lemon.
Standard.
All right. I'll see you in a bit, lads. Bye.
Cheers, Dave.
Bye.
Bye. Today's podcast is sponsored by Vehicle Score. If you haven't heard me talk about Vehicle Score before, it is the free car checking website where you can get a score on your car based on its age, MOT history, mileage, and many other factors. All you have to do is head to vehiclescore.co.uk, enter your registration. I'm going to use the registration of a Vivaro van that I have, and we're going to check that and see how it scores. Ours is 804 out of 999, absolutely amazing. There is loads of information on here, from the tax status, whether it's ULEZ compliant, whether it's currently got MOT, the vehicle performance, the insurance group. You can check out the MOT history, but most importantly, whether you're a dealer or you're just buying a car for yourself, you want to do a background check on that car, and they can do them for as little as less than a coffee. £2.95 for the salvage report, £8.95 for the ultimate report, and £11.95 for the Ultimate Plus report, which is the one that I highly recommend. Don't forget to use my code SHIFTINGMetal20. You'll get 20% off, making that just £9.58. And it will tell you an awful lot of things about that car that you're going to want to know before you hand over your hard-earned cash. Whether it's been an import and export, whether it's been seen at a salvage auction, whether it's got finance against it, whether it's been an insurance write-off and has got a category against it, whether it's been an ex-taxi, stolen, scrapped, colour change, whether it's been seen to be clocked, and many, many other things. So if you are looking to spend your hard-earned cash, make sure you don't just buy it, Vehicle Score it. Yeah, I was going to say, the example I always give of, like people like just ripping you off is it was a crappy little thing that we didn't want to buy anyway. It was a red Seat Leon, half the paint was falling off, as they always are on red cars. And I think we'd only given like 600 quid for it, which is more than I wanted to give. It was like 3 times as much what I wanted to give for it. But they'd, argued. And they'd bought this other car off us anyway. And then we'd done the deal. And then as they're leaving, they're like, she goes, there is a battery drain on it. And we've tried everything. And we thought it was the radio, but it's not. And they swapped the radio back in and whatever. But it's like, it will be flat again in the morning. But my conscience couldn't not tell you.
Man.
Well, hang on. You feel better now because you told me after you've lumped it on me and the deal's done. but you didn't want to tell me beforehand because I wouldn't have given you as much money. You're literally telling me you've like defrauded me, basically. And
You might as well have texted you on the way
still,
home.
it's 600 quid. Imagine I came around to you and said, "Can I have 600 quid out your pocket, please?" Because that car's worthless other than scrap. It's.
And the thing that's annoying about that, I'm almost at a point in life where I don't mind getting screwed over. Like when I buy something, I just think this will have a problem. Let's find out what the problem is. The thing that annoys me is when it's got a problem that you can't fix. And it doesn't matter how much you spend on it, where you take it, how much time you put in, you can't fix it. That's the one that annoys, because that's costing you time and you can't replace the time that you put in a working day. So
then if you find out that someone's already been going through all these steps, to try and figure this out, realize they couldn't, and that's why it's ended up part exchange review. And then you, rather than them saying, well, they wouldn't because they wouldn't get the same amount of money, but there's this problem and we've tried all this and it's not that and it's not that. You go through and do it all again as well. And it's just, James is getting wound up just even thinking about it.
My piss is boiling just thinking about it. I can't tell you how many times. Just go and do it to We Buy Any Car. Like, don't do it to us.
It's not about that red Seat as well. Is that I put it up for like trade for like 200 quid or something. I think must have got to put it on Facebook Marketplace. It's the worst place. I can't do it now. But and it was just because this was like in our early days of where we are. And I put it up saying, electrical drain on it, hardly ever wants to start, probably needs a new battery now. And it will need to be trailered away. It's did the whole like it's unroadworthy type thing. People came in. I think we helped them jumpstart it to show that it ran and all that sort of stuff. And there's the thing. It was like it was completely out of fuel, as a lot of your part exchanges come in are. Anyway, and I wasn't there, but they still took it, but they drove it away, even though saying don't take it on a trailer. And they literally ran out of fuel like 15 meters up the road. And then come back. They blocked up the road. They'd come back and they were effing and jeffing and we want our money back and blah blah. I'm like, it's just like, oh. God, yeah, exactly the type of
people.
The rules of this transaction were set out beforehand. You need to trailer it away. You had all the information. You wanted to take a chance, and you're annoyed now that it hasn't panned out, and you're making it my problem.
Yeah, we see that regularly. We have probably a meeting once a month with the local trading standards officer down here because obviously each region it's different, and we had this topic about spares, repairs, trailer away, yada yada yada, and you'd be amazed what the customers' rights still are if you get any of those things remotely wrong. Like we had one 2 years ago, I think it was, where a customer, everything was written down: spares, repairs, trailer away. We parked it off-site, everything was tickety boo, because the customer had taxed it on our forecourt. Apparently, that classed as the vehicle as being roadworthy, and we're just like, what? Like,
like I couldn't doing that. It's
and again, like the customer always looks at us, goes, "Oh, why are you so cautious about this? Why are you doing this?" I was like, because people like this, like these are the people that make our life impossible. And then they'll be the first people to put it all over the internet and point us out as untrustworthy traders or whatever. It's very, 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 very tiring. And this is another string as to why I can't deal with people. If I looked that person in the eye, that would be an issue for them, I would say.
The red mist.
So I lock myself in a room and stay there. They're like, keep him at the back with his dog.
Yeah.
I guess that's a question I'd like to ask, actually. We've got two other dealers here. When you've got a too hard for now car, problem, headache, and you just keep putting it off, how do you dispose of it? When you've got an unfixable car. So I've done it before. Put them into trades, explain the situation, and they, occasionally get kicked right in the nuts, and you'll take it and get rid of the car. But sometimes when you put them on trade, and again you explain it because you've only got one reputation. We all know a way out of a car, don't we? But to do it properly, so you're doing the right thing. You be honest about it, and people don't want it because you've been honest about it. You put it into auction. It goes round and round and round in auction. What exactly are we doing to get rid of these cars, lads, other than stripping them for spares?
I'll let Joe go first, see what he says.
Yeah, it's funny enough. This was going to be one of the topics that I was going to cover, so quite neatly plays in. But yeah, like what to do with lemon cars. I mean, I think it depends on what it is and whatever. I mean, if it's a really old banger or whatever, you're never really going to get anything from it from auction. I think surprisingly, that's when I give them to my missus, and she puts them on Facebook Marketplace, and she'll lay out the problems, but then she still has to deal with the dickheads. But it's fine for me because I don't have to deal with it. But, you know, if you say to someone, it's got these problems, it's, you know, it's got a weird misfire or something, 9 times out of 10, I guess it's okay. Maybe not quite that much, but and then sometimes people will complain afterwards. But yeah, I mean, do you know what? The We Buy Any Car trade used to be good for quite a while through COVID times when We Buy Any Car were paying astronomical prices for everything. I guess they were desperate for stock. That used to be really good when there was We Buy Any Car trade because you could just take it in there, no questions asked. It
Beautiful.
was a trade deal. You didn't have to pretend that, you know, because you
Gift from
kind
God,
of
that one.
backdate your V5 and go in and take it to We Buy Any Car anyway. But yeah, I will send stuff to auction, or I don't know. Sometimes I just have to accept that I'm going to have to take a very bitter pill on some cars, which can be 2 or 3, maybe more grand loss. Just
Underestimate. Underestimate.
yeah, that's the problem when it comes to
That's a
selling
you
it,
problem
stuff
for
of your
having
value.
fancy cars. That's a fancy car problem. So I'll explain how I do it. So every now and again I'll let the traders that I've got. So the little cheap part exchange that we wouldn't sell, the rotters, we'll give out to a little trader. If we get something in that's realistically retailable and like the loss is a bit too much, we would make our best efforts to do a funny advert. Okay, and I'll explain why. So we'll explain everything that we've tried in the advert, why it's spares or repairs, what the scenario is of spares or repairs. We'll let them know what the name of the previous person was, not their full name, and try and make it into a bit of a story and a drama. We'll put it on our website. Someone will fall in love with the idea and they normally buy it. And you know what? I reckon those people will fix those cars. All right. I reckon if you've got the right mindset, you know exactly what it is. You're buying it from a dealer with an honest description. Somebody out there will go, do you know what? I want that. I'm going to put that in my garage and I'm going to figure that out by myself. That's my project for the next 5 years. And that's how we seem to be getting the best out of these, what I would class as tricky situations that you don't really know what to do with. I've got a local trader to me. He writes the funniest adverts you've ever seen. I always try and take a little piece out of it. Like, I'm not as good as him at doing it, but he had a Range Rover Sporting with 160,000 miles on it. And he wrote, this is proper full drug dealer spec. Anywhere you're going to go, the police are going to look at you twice. There is a problem where every now and again the engine management light comes on, but you don't care. You're in a black Range Rover. Sod it. And he goes, this was £168,000 new. It's now £4,300. What we saying, boys? And he's like, bang, sold, done.
Yeah.
Like, just
It's a really
I've
good
seen
idea,
those
mate.
sort of funny adverts, and again, that is good marketing. So yeah, it's interesting to know that you can do it kind of. Yeah.
But we haven't not had success from it. So if I've got one on our website now that we've put up spares repairs. We've written honestly what it is on there. I did it day before yesterday. I've had 35 emails, I think. 15 of them are people that haven't read the description. The rest of them are relatively serious. 5 of them are, do you know what the fault is? And we always reply back, if we knew, we'd fix it.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be this advert.
The best
and we
one
try
is
and be as we can.
and then
like,
buy
got a
it and
couple-
I'll pay you to fix it. It's like,
No.
you would have done that.
Yeah, no, but yeah, so we've got like, as long as you're happy to sift through the drivel, it will get it gone. It's annoying, don't get me wrong, it's not an ideal situation, but sometimes you just got to make light of it, just accept that you've got to eat shit every now and again. You might as well have fun whilst you're doing it.
I got a feeling though that with Rob's stuff, if it's give us a estimated general retail value of a car, not have to name it, that
are causing headache anywhere between sort of 15 and 30, something like that. You tend to find with the real, I mean, I've had some bad ones, but they've all been fixable. So we had a 997, like the one you've just come back. I don't know how recent that video was, the one you had. But
yeah, not that recent, but yeah.
Yeah, I was sifting through, been watching you. And it's come back with, it had bore score issues. So that was like an 11, 12 grand bill, but it's all fixable. But then we've had a couple that just haven't been fixed. I've got a couple that are sat in the car park now. And you just kind of don't know where to go with it. So 15, 20 grandish type cars. And you go, I know there's been an issue here. So for example, I've had a convertible car in. I drove it for a long time. It was totally fine, but occasionally, and only occasionally, the roof doesn't work. No reason for it. We've tried everything. We've used live data. Everything's fine. It always works when you're testing it. and I'll carry on driving it, and then occasionally it won't work again, and you know that's going to bite you, but you can't, and you're like, how do we? Do you know? But actually, James, a really good shout. Like, if you're listening, just go.
Well, this is convertible. It's temperamental. You're going to have to give it a women's name. All right.
Yes.
Be honest with it and just say, look, this car has got so much passion, character. Every now and again, it will decide that the roof doesn't work. 99 times out of 100, it does. This is part of the car, and I hope that somebody enjoys it. And if you write that, I reckon somebody will fall in love with that idea.
Can you imagine the sun's out, you want to put the roof down? Unfortunately, you probably won't be able to because it's got a temperamental roof switch, but still, it's a great car.
Usually works in the rain.
Yeah.
Grandissimo.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of one of my favourite adverts, which is when one door closes, another one opens. But other than that, it's a great car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, stuff that's like that sort of price range, say like the Porsches and stuff with bore score and whatever, sometimes I will look at it and think, say the car's worth retail 20 grand, it's going to cost you 11 to fix it or whatever. That leaves you 9 in it, but you can bin it off at auction for 10. And let's say, you know, it goes to auction for even less. So let's say you're maybe £1 or £2 better off by fixing it and, you know, either going with it again or letting the customer have it back. I would probably still, at this stage of the game, just get it gone and make it someone else's problem. Send it to auction, sell it as is, whatever, because you can fix it, have that little bit of extra money in it, and then they're going to take it away, and 3 months down the line, they'll say, oh, this has now happened and whatever. Sometimes I just want to be out of them, and maybe my patience is getting as thin as James's, and it's just like, that's
we always cut it off, go again. Because obviously, I think to myself, that money in the bank, I can earn that, make money off it, forget about it. The stress now is what I focus on to making sure that we eradicate it. So if you've got, sometimes you end up with 5 or 6 sort of, you know, smelly issues floating about. I'm like, how do we get out of this? How much is it going to cost, worst case scenario, to get out of this? And we just get it done. Don't get me wrong, sometimes if somebody is really in the wrong, we will fight it to the death, and we'll probably pay more in solicitors' fees fighting it, just because I don't feel that some people, it's okay for people to do what they do to us. And I take a bit of a passion with that. We, you know, 9 times out of 10 we win, and it, you know, we end up financially like not as well off, but we've won that battle, which we refused, and we're like, do you know what, these people are taking the mickey out of us. Yeah, they've received some financial loss.
That comes down to like a moral victory, and again, like a team victory, you know, because it's your staff and stuff that are going to take the shit with some of these customers sometimes, and if you just roll over for them, they've been fighting the good fight for you probably, and then you just roll over, just give them the money back and whatever. It's like, no, you know, you were right. What you said to them was right. They are taking the mick. That isn't covered. That should never be covered. That's not reasonable. And yeah, I will put my neck on the line. So I think, yeah, you have to sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, you know, well, and yeah, well, the boss says he's going to have a go, and he's going to stick up for all of us. And when I come back and I say, do you know what, guys, we won. I'm not going to tell him how much it actually cost me in solicitors' fees, but as a team, we won. All right. And that customer didn't walk away feeling like they'd had a victory over us.
Yeah.
And I know it's, you know, it's a little bit childish sometimes, but it isn't. It's a respect thing. Because if they go around, those customers go around and start talking to other people, because everywhere's a small place where, you know, wherever you're trading, if they go, oh, I went so-and-so and I slaughtered them, they rolled over, you did this. If you go there, they'll roll over.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't want that. I don't want people to think that about us. Obviously, I still want people to buy cars off us, but I don't want them to think that we're an easy one to throw darts at, because it's, you know, it's not okay. And every single time we always remind these people, when you leave us a bad Google review or you try and take us to court, you are taking 9 families to court at the same time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right? So that's you. This is 9 people that rely on this business for their childcare, for themselves, for their home, all that sort of stuff. You are doing that to us when you do that. Yes, I get you want to say you're 2 pence worth and you want to do this, you want to do that, but it affects 9 people, not just you.
Yeah, and do you really think you're being reasonable in what you're asking? Like,
they're never being reasonable, and you'll never be able to convince them they're being reasonable, because they'll have somebody behind them going, I know so-and-so, I know this about that. They're bad people, and they just haven't got a clue, and they G them up. You know, they G them up. I'll do it everywhere, put it all over the internet. You know, I was like, great. We don't reply to any of the stuff on, like, we reply to Google reviews, but we don't reply to anything on the internet. We just let it run its course. Always do that. Because they run out of steam.
I had a guy who had a lot to say about the business. I ended up going to court on it. Long story short, ended up refunding his car, and then he tried to take us to court through the finance company, tried to take us to court. I'm going to do a video on this because it was just horrific. He then wrote these reviews about us on Facebook and sponsored them.
Wow.
So they were coming, oh yeah, sponsored them. So I had car dealers ringing me, Rob, have you seen this? Blah, blah. Now, unfortunately for this guy, I got car dealers ringing me that they'd dealt with him in the past. And they're like, by the way, he's done this to us. And you were getting all this information on the back of his sponsored ad. And when we went to court, we presented all this information. So actually, fired for him. It was a bittersweet victory, to be fair. And he didn't go lawyered up, and I did. So I just got to sit at the back and watch. I was like, oh, this is worth it for the money, to be fair. Didn't win anything, but we didn't lose anything. But that is the only time I think I've potentially lost sleep over a situation, because it was just constant barrage of people ringing you going, have you seen what's going on? You're like, yes, I might have seen it. And it was lies. And I nearly went back to court, and I'm half tempted to do it actually, the slander side of things, because it was just provable lies. Yeah.
We've done that. We got, I think it was about £4,600 off a bloke that did something like that. He actually made a website about a car that he bought off us. All right. And it went into loads and loads of detail about a load of stuff that just wasn't correct. And like, obviously we had everything to the other side of it. I think he wasn't well, but at the same time, we followed all the process to get him to take it down. We're like, you need to take it down. And there was like a counter on the bottom of it as to how many people were viewing it. And it was only like, I don't know, 90 people. Like, he obviously didn't have that many faces. He'd shared it on all of his socials. He didn't have that many people that were his friends. I think he thought it was going to be some sort of global takeover. But I don't normally ring customers. I just rang him up and I said, look, mate, like, have a day off, let it go, just, I said, otherwise I'm going to do this. And he goes, oh, well, you don't know what you're doing. I was like, okay, but these people do. All right. I'm going to pass the baton over to them. I'm a nice guy. They're paid not to be. And he was like, oh, screw you. And yeah, £4,600. It was.
Ooh, I might go back on this then.
Yeah. Which it's basically what you can prove as in damages. So on it, luckily, because it had the counter on the bottom, you can prove that, like, if 90 people have seen something, that's 90 opportunities you could potentially have lost. So yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And if you get a good solicitor that's into it, you need to find a solicitor that's into cars, or like with a little bit of mechanical knowledge. That really, really helps.
Yeah, to be fair, the guys that we use, guys and girls, when they came into court to defend us that time, it was art. There's no other way of describing it as artwork, because he was trying every angle, saying it wasn't roadworthy, it wasn't the car, even though we'd MOT'd it. And he's just coming out with, right, so just to confirm, was the car not roadworthy, or did you drive it home? Just stuff like that. You just sort of pushed him down, and because what he was doing was totally wrong. The way that he was manipulating the system, and it was just so nice to watch them just unfold it all, just piece by piece. And even so, when we went into court, the first thing the judge said was, "Please, everyone, make sure your phones are off." And he went, "Yes, phones off," and then it fucking ran. Yes.
That's what it'd be like.
1-0.
I thought it might have been mine, Judge, but mine was turned off, just to make it. Yeah. Do you know the worst? I think the worst. We haven't had that many bad reviews. We've had some, but there was one guy who came in and he bought this BMW off of us, and he was just one of those insufferable pricks who just wouldn't shut up about how much money he made. And he was only buying a 10 grand car, which I know is is a lot of money, but it's not in the grand scheme of things compared to a lot of the things. For the way he was going on, and I own my own roofing company and all this and all that, and it's a bit like, okay. And then he had this complaint about something. I can't even remember what it was. Whatever it was so minor, and I think we'd fixed it, but he had to come back one time. And he came back when I wasn't there, and he'd got a right attitude on him. And I think this was when my ex-missus was there. And he'd come in proper bolshy, throwing his weight around, and I make this much, and I've had to take a day off, and that's cost me 400 quid or 300 quid for the day or whatever, and I make loads of money, and blah, blah, blah. And he was just a really aggressive, nasty. And I phoned him up, and I was just like, you're lucky I wasn't there, because if you did that to my missus in front of me, you know, come in and kind of scared everyone and threatened them, and everyone was a bit shaky because he was just kicking. I like, you know, it's just, I don't care the consequences are. I just won't tolerate that. Anyway, I don't know if it was before or after, but he'd left us a snotty review and said a load of rubbish. But I was just like, put back, like, I didn't appreciate you coming in, threatening my other half, being I think he called like one of the members of staff, like, a see you next Tuesday and all this sort of stuff, and put all that in there. And I was like, oh, and you know, obviously we know you're a small business owner because you wouldn't stop talking about it. But how would you feel if every single one of us here then gave you a review on your business saying how rude and disgusting your behavior was, taken down like that? Just, I don't. Yeah, just
it's really, really difficult, I find, to just continue with the professional approach when you're just getting battered with bollocks.
yeah, childish shit. The lowest common denominator. You can't battle with it, can you? I mean, I get it with the YouTube comments and whatever. You know, all I get is chubby plumber,
you're asking for that
stuff, and I get loads of abuse. And you know, the thing is, it's never coming from anyone who's doing better than you, or any of those.
Well, no, that's it.
So you've got to try and let it wash over. But sometimes you're just like, oh, I'd love, you know, I know you wouldn't say it to my face, but it's
I'd love to have a go. I'd love to have a go. Got to remember, all of these people that are coming at you, they've all got so much less to lose than you, and they want to see you lose it. They, you know, especially with all your YouTube success, they would love nothing more to see you fall flat on your face and be involved in a scandal. That's what they want. And that's sometimes what they're probably coming in there hoping for, and goes, oh, I ruined him. That was my job, you know. And that's,
I always said he was a prick.
Yeah, always said he was a prick. You know, that's my intention. You know, they've always got loads of
car dealer.
You know, typical car dealer. But you know, people don't like it if you start something and they're interested in it and you're doing okay. People genuinely don't want you to succeed. Apart from, I'd say, I've got 5-6 car dealer friends that are local to me, and every time I see them do well, I'm so buzzing for them. It is like, and I know how hard it is, and I know how hard they've worked to get to, you know, what people don't see is like little baby steps. Like when you go to employing your first person, that is an enormous step for some people, you know. And when I see it happen, I'll ring them up and I'll go, dude, I'm so chuffed for you. Like, I'm absolutely buzzing. And like that, you can hear their voice sort of be like, oh, thank God for that. You know, like I'm pleased I've done it, and I'm pleased that somebody else has noticed that I've done it. Whereas other people are like, oh my God, he's got loads of staff now. He's got loads of money. Look at him flying up, driving around in a fancy car or whatever.
Yeah.
So it is so nice to hear.
It is a real thing. So, you know, I don't rise to it. You know, don't get me wrong. I get plenty of people going, oh, you can do this, you can do that, or, you know, can you help me with this? Can I borrow that? If you've got a car ramp and a trailer, you're everyone's best friend.
Yeah. No, you're right. You know what I think is, I think the reason when some people say stuff like, oh, whatever rubbish they've got to say, you should run your business this way, or you don't know what you're doing, or blah, 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 blah. You know that's not coming from anyone doing better than you, because I know from having, all of us being sort of self-made business people, you know how hard it is, and you slog away, and it's shit, and then it's good, and then it's shit, and then it's good, and you just got to keep going. You go through all this stuff that when you do see people that you like doing well, that you are pleased for them because you know what it's taken, and you know what a massive momentous moment that is for them. So you would celebrate it. Whereas we wouldn't put people down for trying or any of that sort of stuff. So I think, you know, no one who has done it themselves really resents other people doing it. I don't think. And there might be the odd example out there, but, you know, I think it's the people who wish they had the guts to try and do the things that you do and take a chance, because then when you do have success with it, just that's what they see. They don't see the fact that I've had businesses where I've, you know, lost money, not many, but that haven't panned out how I wanted them to. But
but not many, but most succeed.
Yeah. I just mean in the sense that they haven't panned out that I thought they might have gone really big, and you know, I've done importing, exporting, all that sort of stuff. I've done 101 different things. It hasn't just I picked car trading and it's panned out okay, and then YouTube and whatever and it's panned out okay. It's just you have to keep trying, and every time it's taking a risk, and it's still just taking a risk just being in business. It would be much easier and safer to knock it all on the head, take the money, have a nice holiday, and then go and work for someone else for a nice, comfortable, reliable salary. And the people who are too afraid to kind of risk that, you know, people don't want to do that, and that's fine. But the people who would like that, but aren't able to do it, then resent you for having done it when it pays off.
They're the real haters. Those ones.
Yeah.
They're the real haters.
And I think
they're the ones
knocking you is making them feel better.
Yeah, the ones that resent themselves for not going. Well, I remember when he started having a go at doing that, and I held off the brakes and I didn't do it. They're the ones that really, really, really it grips them, because they're like, where could I have been in 10 years' time? But I've also got some friends that have got normal jobs. Like I've got like a group of 8 friends. A couple of them are in the motor trade. One of them is a motor trader, but he wasn't when we became friends. Like, you know, none of them sit there and go, I wish I was like you. I wish we're just a bunch of idiots, you know, just getting along. But there are some people out there that I've lost over the years. I remember I probably said that I had like 200, 300 friends back in the day when I was a youngster. I'm pretty confident I've got 3 or 4 like real friends. Yeah. And as you get more successful, those people, you get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And my real friends, I don't talk anything about business at all. Nothing at all. Like, when can we go and watch the new Bad Boys film? Can we drink 8 beers in between getting there and seeing the film?
It's the important stuff.
The important stuff. And that's what I did. I do quite a lot of exercise, and I've got, my friend owns a gym locally, and I go there and I'm nobody. I'm not a business owner. I'm not dad to 5 kids. I'm not any of those things. I just get there and I get to be nobody. I just get to be James. And that side of it is also, that's probably a topic for you for another day, Joe, for men's mental health or whatever. But that's how I straighten everything out in my life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, mental health has been a struggle for me over the years and whatever. And I have talked about it in another video, but yeah, it is important to have those things. And I think sometimes I've been like it for years, because I've always just been, I don't know, just my own worst critic and my, like, a proper slave driver to myself, because I feel like I have to be. And again, like I've said probably 100 times before, people are sick of hearing, you know, my accomplishments are completely tied to my self-esteem. So, you know, if I woke up on a morning and I didn't have things to do and achieve, I'm miserable. So I need to have something to do or whatever. But I also know that I would love to relax and take time off. But when I realized one time, maybe 10 years ago, and I was sat in the dentist and I'm there and he's drilling away at my teeth and whatever. And he's like, oh, you know, he's there for an hour or whatever. He's like, I hope that wasn't too, you know, unpleasant or whatever. And I was like, do you know what? Actually, as sick as it sounds, I really enjoyed that, because no one was phoning me. No, no stress of whatever. I couldn't concentrate on anything else but looking at your nice, like, poster on the ceiling of Sri Lanka and just you drilling away. And that was it. And I was thinking, that's not normal. That's not normal to be like enjoying an hour of nothing going on and drilling away at your head.
No, I've had the exact same experience. I completely feel you. Like, I always put my phone on the side as well, so I can't feel it vibrate in my pocket. And I go to the dentist. I'm completely at somebody else's mercy, and I actually feel refreshed afterwards. Yeah. Like, I come out and I'm like, oh, reality. Hey, here you are again.
Yeah,
I completely get that. That might be sort of, you know,
it's taking the control out of your hands, that you can't just keep checking your emails on your phone, and you can't, you know, look at the auctions or whatever it is, or take some phone calls. Yeah, you got no choice but to put that device down.
I'll tell you what I quite like, what I've got into, and so I'm 37, so I think I don't know how old we are, but I think we're all certainly the same generation. And I never thought I'd do this. I've got into the Xbox a bit. Just because it's a form of escapism, like no particular reason, but I'll phone in a different room or phone on the other side, and just half an hour and an hour of 4 to 5 or whatever, and just you're switched off in a different zone. I tell you, that does wonders for me. It's a slippery slope, though. I've had a Sunday on one all day.
Yeah, it's quite manly. I get it. I play Call of Duty online sometimes against my sons. Don't get me wrong, I get absolutely destroyed by them. But again, I come out afterwards, and like, if I was really stressed out about something, I'm annoyed that they've beaten me, but like, I'm not. You don't really get stressed out if you can find something that takes you into another universe. Like, I watch a little bit of reality television now. Like, I'm a celebrity and stuff like that, and everyone like laughs at you and things like that. But it's such simple television, I sleep like a donkey after I've watched reality television because I immerse myself in what's going on in their little world. Okay. And then afterwards I come out and I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're going to eat a spider tomorrow. Not what I've got to MOT, this car, that car, whatever. And I come out of it and I sleep like a baby because I struggle to switch off night times really badly. So I'll regularly not be awake till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll be up at 5 bang. And I come into work for 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I get 3 hours before everyone turns up, just so my phone's not ringing and I can get a day's work done, and then I can muck in with everyone and get involved. But that's how I sort of monitor it. But over the years, I've found out these little things like yourself, like the Xbox. It's really easy. Just escape, like pretend you're not there for a little bit, and it does. It's a factory reset.
And also, I can finally have a LaFerrari.
Job done.
Everything in one.
Yeah, I do this. I've had this PlayStation I've had for years, and I didn't touch it, I don't think, for about 2 years. So I'm not that fussed about gaming, but I do the bit of Call of Duty now. Sometimes I think I just get home exactly the same. I call it like decompressing, just that shift change between having been at work, drive home, sit down. I mean, the gym would be the same thing. I did used to go to the gym. I used to be in pretty damn good shape, I'll tell you, but I need to get back to it. But
you still look good, Joe. You still look good, mate.
Looking sharp.
It's the boobs now. Of them. Yeah, it's having that kind of like thing. Yeah, so I do the gaming as well. But after half an hour, I'm bored of it. I'm like, this is annoying. But then you're like, right, what am I going to do? I suppose I could go out with dinner or whatever, or if I need to do the auctions or something, I can do. But yeah, I think we should all do it. We should do a stream of Call of Duty or something. We could put that on.
I mean, I love it.
I don't know if the language would be suitable, to be honest.
That's all right. Right. Can I bring a couple of things in, if that's all right? I did actually write a list for this. It's not a very big list, but I wrote a list regardless. A couple of things I wanted to mention was I have not had AutoTrader since 2017.
Wow. Okay.
And I knocked first response on the head in 2021. I've seen you talk about them in so much detail, and they are the worst of the worst of the worst. But I reckon that's a whole another day. But the AutoTrader one I really wanted to share with you because we made a huge jump when I started this new venture. Well, I say new venture. We started here in 2017. I've been stitched up so many times by AutoTrader. I said I'm going to do something else with the money. But half of what the money that I was spending, and I put it into Facebook, and we've now got 18,000 followers, and I get 5 times as much business that I ever got from Facebook as what I did from AutoTrader.
And I mean, that's amazing, mate. And you're clearly one of the people on these groups that you see online that say you binned AutoTrader off and no one believes them, which is great to see. But how long did it take from binning them off to get into a sustainable point again? Sorry if I've interrupted there.
It never dropped off. It was an unbelievable change because £7,000 a month, you've got to realistically sell 5-7 cars in my little thing. I sold the same amount of cars plus one. I think I sold one more car, and I thought, no, that's weird. Maybe it's just a one-off. And then it carried on, and it carried on, and it carried on. And then I was like, oh, fucking hell, what am I going to do here? Don't get me wrong, I'm one of these people, I ring up all the other companies. So like when Ivendi's there, I get on with one of the ladies at Ivendi really well, and I always ring them up and go, right, whatever you've got that's new or you're beatering, give it to me. I want it. Even if you think it's shit, I want to have a go. I want to be the first person to decide. So we did it with eBay when they first took over Gumtree, and they did like the Star of the Week car. I was like, I want it. I'll have it for free for 6 months. You can look at all my data. I'll have that. And that, again, that worked, and that's how that came about. So I'm one of these people that rings them up and goes, give it to me first. Give it to me first. And then in the meantime, we started to ergonomically grow our Facebook. And then that's now become an integral part of the business. So we spend about £2,300 a month for Facebook instead of £7,000 with AutoTrader.
That's crazy. That's interesting. So, right, I need to ask you all the questions now.
Go on.
What other advertising platforms do you use, though? So are you on eBay Motors Group?
eBay Motors Group, yeah.
Okay.
We use, there's a lot of, I've got a couple of friends that don't use all the backroom stuff. So there's, if you get the backroom stuff right, like little tweaks to the adverts and stuff, that's where it works the stuff to the top. I follow a lot of stuff online in America. So the Americans are about 12 months ahead of us with everything. They're sort of car dealer forum. They know what's going on over there. Same with, that's how I learn a lot of the Facebook stuff. I go on, see what they're doing in America. Because their algorithms are, like I said, you know, it's with YouTube as well. You know where the trends are, what's going on. They're the ones that have got control over it because that's basically where it's based. So we just try and follow it that way. So I've got eBay, Gumtree, Car Gurus, Facebook.
Free Car Gurus or their paid one?
Free one.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm with 67 Degrees.
Yeah.
So
I am now as well, actually.
Yeah, I did spot that. I spend a lot of time with Luke, just sort of eyeing it up because they're part of my they're one of my partners for the race car as well.
Yeah.
And Octane Finance as well. They're one of my partners, and we finance any car, which is actually also Octane. It's the same company. Well, there's different directors, but yeah, similar company. And that's, you know, I like to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, getting the wording right. So we don't actually write any descriptions on any cars anymore, believe it or not. So I know it goes against the grain for some people, but I don't write anything on the cars. I just write, we're Platinum Car Centre, this is what we do. And I put 9 photos.
You can give the information, sort of thing.
9 photos?
9 photos.
Bloody hell. You literally are going against everything that, you know, everyone recommends, probably filtered down from AutoTrader, I have to say, but
yeah.
Can I dive in here? Sorry, James. What's your average time to sell a car?
9 days.
Oh.
Right, I'm just looking at your website, not your website, sorry. I've looked at your website, but now I'm looking at your Facebook page. I followed you on Instagram for quite a while. So your posts that you would do, you literally are just putting the cars on there. You're doing like you're putting your bullet points and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you would do it how I would do it, to be honest. And if I as and when I list cars myself, I would do like a sentence about the car. A lovely, like, for example, you got here, 2015 Citroen C4. I would put lovely 2015, you know, if it's got 7 seats, or like 7 seats, great for the family, blah, blah, and that would be it. I don't want to do any more description than that. Just bullet.
We put it in the bullet in the top right hand corner. That's what we do. So we'll put, but we hashtag it. So it's, so it links in with Google. So we'll put hashtag 7-seater, hashtag low insurance.
Yeah.
Then it pings up on all the meta tag adverts.
Yeah. And then as far as your advertising goes, what would you do? So you just promote those individual posts?
Yep. For
what, a week or something?
Currently, the current sweet spot is 11 days.
Okay.
For a 90-kilometer radius. So the difference between eBay and AutoTrader and Facebook. So most people go on eBay now to look at a car or AutoTrader or whatever, but they sometimes sort of bleed into each other anyway. eBay, they're looking for the car. Facebook, they're not looking for the car. If you get the Facebook advertising right and it comes across the front of them, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I could afford that. I didn't realize I liked that
that
color.
has been my theory as well, that it's like with AutoTrader and eBay and Car Gurus and all the likes, you are targeting people who are actively looking for a car. But if you're advertising, because I've done it myself as well with like our raffle stuff and whatever else, and cars, because I've just knocked eBay on the head in favor of AutoTrader and our AA thingy. And I was going to put, again, either the same or half the money like you have into Instagram and Facebook ads, because I think it is, you'll probably tell me, you know, it's like you've got to have a commitment to it. It's not going to pay off that well if you're like one advert, put it on, oh, it didn't sell in a month. You know, it's not really, that's how it works. It's like a compound interest. Keep going, you get more followers. And then with the Facebook and Instagram, you're reaching people where they're just generally socially browsing. And like you say, something comes up and they're like, oh, I've always fancied one of those. And they're only like, you know, 10 grand now. God, you know.
Yeah. Well, we do. I buy like some quite vibrant color. I buy cars that are quite cool. Like, so to some people, obviously some people, some they're not. So, like if a yellow cactus comes through, they want like a 1.2 pure tech, and it's like $5,500. I'm like, I knew when that was 20 when it was new and it was cool, and I'm like, £110 a month. And like someone will see that and they'll be like, yeah, do you know what? I want to pick my kids up from school next week in that car. And I'm happy to pay £110 a month with a £199 deposit. Why the fuck not? And the new systems with a 67-degree website, they can have themselves approved for finance and paid out in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's done. That car's done, up the road. We've prepped it. It's gone. So I'll give you an insight on some of the figures that I've got here. I've got some of the Facebook ones. So last month alone, just the adverts, we had 962,100 impressions on the car adverts just last month.
How many adverts that, Dane? How many adverts is that on, James?
That are live, on average about 9-10.
Right. So okay.
100,000 each then, basically.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Obviously, like we do get a lot of messages that are like, "Where are you based? Where are you located? Boring, 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 boring." But sometimes it's just a case of, have you got a part exchange? Do you want to do finance? And they're like, "Oh well, I don't know if I could." I was like, and we can give a little bit of advice, and they're talking to us then, like they just want to. Sometimes I put less information, so it encourages them to talk to us. Yeah. So we can tell them about the car. What service history has it got? I said, well, tell you what, it's been done there. Where do you live? Well, I live in St Austell. I was like, well, it was serviced 3 miles up the road. Why don't you go and see the garage up the road, mate? See if you like it.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that. And then it becomes a personal experience. And that's what I think we get a lot of from Facebook. Don't get me wrong, we're very lucky because the pub that's right next door to us is the Plymouth Argyle pub. The Argyle ground is a linear mile away from us, same as what the van centre is. So that's another relationship that we got that's very good for us. And we're very, very lucky to be able to be a part of that, because football clubs nowadays are very strict about who they pin their brand to. So, we're really, really lucky to have that on board. And that does work really well for us. But that's actually more expensive than any of the other advertising that we do.
Really?
Yeah, by a considerable sum, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but expensive.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like, obviously it works very well for James. I think it would work well for me as well, because I like to buy interesting stuff, things that I think are interesting. And like you say, things that are colourful. And my new theory is, although we do have passing trade, especially in the summer, I want to have a kind of stock list of things that people will jump out at people, but people will also be sort of looking for, and they'll be willing to travel because it is that bit different. It's not your everyday traffic. I mean, some of it is your everyday traffic, but it's not like car supermarket. I'm trying to be the anti-car supermarket where, you go in, you say, I want a 3-door hatchback, no more than £20 tax per year. And they say, wow, that's these 20 cars here. And they go, oh, that one looks quite nice. And that's it. That's, we're having to search stuff out. I think it would work well for me, but I feel like the person that like the meta advertising that James was talking about work best for would be Rob with your stuff, because obviously it works well with you on TikTok and things like that.
Yeah, well, it's a bit different, isn't it? And it's I get that. I'm really, really interested to hear more about this, James, because and funnily enough, I was going to bring it when you mentioned that you come off Facebook. The first thing I was going to ask is, are you doing the Google thing and looking at down that route? Because apparently this is where it's all going now, isn't it? Where it's targeted and it's not something people are necessarily thinking about, or it's targeting areas, etc. I am struggling to wrap my head around it all, but I know I'm going to have to do an AutoTrader if I could bin them off. Oh,
it's the biggest expense for most people, isn't it? I mean, I must be paying $5,000 a month to them, maybe not that much, but something like that.
You know what annoys me with them? I mean, let's face it, it is the place that people go to if they are purposefully going to look for a car. They're going to use AutoTrader. But the thing that annoys me most about AutoTrader is there is no rhyme or reason for why we have an influx of inquiries on cars. And I just know it is controlled by them 100%. So we'll have a car on for 3 or 4 months. You don't open a door on it. You don't get a call on it. And in a week, you get 7 calls.
Yeah.
It's not chance, is it?
Yeah, we have exactly the same thing. You're like, why is that car all of a sudden got so popular? And we're just thinking about cutting the bollocks off of it and, selling it off cheap or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't. I know there must be like they feature it or it whatever, and it may be a passive thing, but either way, it's still happening.
Get out of the matrix. Let's have a party. We'll do it all together.
I'm in.
Have an online Xbox drinking party and
have a hell of a bender on all the money we've saved.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the other thing is, I do love AutoTrader because I love all the data, the insights, and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like to dip my toe, I'd still have like a little 5-car package or something, just so I could still retail rating and stuff.
It's fed for you. It's like cat for you. They know that you're data driven, and like you said, you mentioned in the past that you're slightly autistic, which I am the worst for that. I applied to go on Gladiators, and I asked my wife. I said, "What would my Gladiator name be?" And she said, "You'd be called Autismo." That's how bad mine is.
I love that.
So I love the data, the numbers, all of that sort of stuff. And I know that there's people I know this for a fact. There are people in AutoTrader that they wait until you stop seeing results. They then push you forward again. And they basically try and hook you in. As you're about to come to the end of your term, they hook you in again. They know exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it. They've been doing it a very, very long time, and they are excellent at what they do. Fair play to that, but I don't want to be a part of it. And I made that choice, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I worked out now I would have spent just shy of £940,000 with them if I'd carried on what I was doing.
Yeah.
And instead, you put million quid into race cars instead. Great, man.
Thank you, AutoTrader, for funding James's racing career.
I had a massive crash in Spa last year. Year before last at Pouon Corner, 3 days before Fernando Alonso did in the F1. That was my sort of moment where I was like, do you know what? I've made it. If I've gone off there, so's Fernando Alonso. But yeah, there's a lot more out there that are more honest. And I don't want to sit here and slate them, but it's a machine. They've got it working very well. As a motor trader, you basically work for AutoTrader if you don't get off that. If you think about £7,000,
they've done a very, obviously they're the most expensive out there by a country mile. Like I say, I think it works out something like 100, if not a bit more, car per month. And that's most traders' biggest expense. I'm sure it's about £4,000, maybe 4.5 for me every month. But they've done a very good job of making you feel like you need them. I've cut eBay Motors Group, and that's who I started with. And to be fair, for 2 or 3 years, I never had AutoTrader because I just thought it's too expensive. I can't afford it. And I stuck with eBay Motors Group. And it was eBay and Gumtree at that point. And I think they used to do Facebook in it at one point. And what else? I don't even think I used the free car gurus thing. I might have stuck some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but that was a nightmare. But still, it worked, but it was a nightmare for the thingies. So it's so stupid, isn't it? Because I should know that I don't need it because I succeeded long before I ever had AutoTrader. You're there saying it's the best thing you've ever done. And me and Rob are both still sat here like, I'd love to, but it sounds great, but I don't know, scary.
Yeah, it's a typical car dealer thing. It's like licking a 9-volt battery. We're like, oh, that's a bit spicy, and then you're like, you're going to go and do it again.
It might be the autism, James. I don't know.
But it's been a real delight for me. It reduces my overheads. It allowed me to employ 2 extra members of staff.
Yeah.
Okay, which gave me more time. Which sounds like something that you really need to do. Is to be able to step out a little bit more, and I gained this. I got the same results, and I just wasn't paying for it. And I didn't like.
Sorry, I'm talking over you, but carry on.
No, it's all right. I didn't like the way the reps worked. It's like, oh, we're going to sign you up for this. This is a new offer. It's not. It's shit. You've worded it differently. We're going to give you 1 superstar car. What does the superstar car do?
I do hate the way it's like you get 5 cars and then you get your 2 for free and then you get your 2 cheapies. It's like, and then you go up 10, it's just like, how much is it for 30 cars, please? Just, well, if you want just 30, then you'd have to have 25 plus you get your 3, then you get, it's like, what? It's almost like they deliberately make it complicated.
I've got Nigel Farage in my head.
You had
boring.
Yeah. You made a really good point there saying, with your AutoTrader bill, you can employ more people. Say, how much do you pay a month on AutoTrader, Rob?
It's surprised a couple of grand, not too bad.
Okay, so you haven't got that many on there. But for me, say it's 4 grand. Say I bin that off and I put a couple of grand or whatever into employing someone for however much time it takes, probably be less than that because it wouldn't need to be full time. And they did the Facebook adverts, they listed them out because that is the downside of doing things on Facebook. It's not, unless you set a little system up, it's not as easy as AutoTrader. Just input the reg and it fills out the information and all that sort of stuff. You have to write a little spiel out and do your emojis and whatever, but I'm sure you've got a template. So it's not as easy. But if you employed someone, you'd still be quids in and it would still be getting done. So
yeah. Well, what's the first...
it to yourself there?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
On a Google are about to release a car platform. Just you guys know about that,
yeah.
But you will need to employ someone for that. That is going to be a full-time job, FYI, or get ready to do it yourself.
So what's the first steps, James? How are we getting out of this mess that we're in? What were we doing?
Bring them up and go, cancel my account.
Oh.
And then put the phone down, and that's it.
Just start. I mean, I've already done it, and I have. Do you know what? I've done it with Bearer Motors, and I've had some success because I will do. It helps. I'm used to being on camera, so I'll go out and I'll just do. Was doing, and it's just finding the time, like car of the week, and I stand there, do like a little 60-second video, and I'll be like, this car, and look, it's got the sat nav, and it's really nice, and it's got heated seats, and this one's even got massage seats and whatever. And it'd be 60 seconds. Stick a mic on, we'd do it, and I'm sure we sold a few cars just from those, and I might not have even promoted them, but I have done promoted ones with good results. Not all of them. I guess you've got to not fall into the trap of like, well, I promoted that one and it didn't sell, and I still had to get rid of it, however. But law of averages with everything, isn't it?
How much did that cost you to sit to quickly do a video walk around and put it on the internet?
Bugger all.
Just your time. Just a little bit of time. Yeah. And how much would a AutoTrader charged you? £6,948. And they would have made sure there was a little graph next to it as well going, expensive.
Yeah.
And they'll offer the customer £9,600 more than what their part exchange is worth. That's the other thing that they do as well. I can't deal with it. I cannot deal with it.
No, fair enough. Give me a lot to think about on this episode.
Yeah, and I think with the data on AutoTrader, just to put my last sort of 2 pence on here or whatever it is, when they're showing how well it's performing on AutoTrader, that is the one thing that grinds my gears the most, because I had this argument with them at the back end of last year because I was on Ultra package or whatever, and I was speaking to Jess or whatever her name was and saying, look, I want to reduce the package, and her argument was, yes, but look how well it's performing. And my straight answer was, Jess, it might well look like it's performing well, but they're still effing sat here, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also your stuff as well. Your stuff, it's like, it's going to perform well because everyone wants to look at a Ferrari 360 and dream about it. Everyone wants to look at a Lotus Emira. Exactly.
Buy it.
Yeah.
They're going to look at it. That might say that it's performing well, but they can't argue that it's performing well. It's still here, so it can't have performed that well.
Yeah.
There we are. We'll never get anyone from AutoTrader on this podcast now. So thanks for that, James.
You should. You should. I reckon you should try it. That's not going to hurt. Like, no one would be uncivil, but I'd love to hear what their perspective of it is, because they might, they might know something that we don't, because I don't know everything. All I can tell you is from my experience that I've had, because I was with AutoTrader for 11 years prior to that, and I've only felt freedom since I've left there. So I don't think it would do the world of bad, and the chances are they'd probably want to say something about it as well, but just an idea.
Yeah. Right, I'm very conscious of getting you both very long. You're both very busy, so it's been a really good one, and we'll definitely have you both back on at some point if you'll join us. I got like homework now to go and do, thanks to James. You'll see your Facebook posts coming up.
So sorry. If you guys ever want any info, just drop me an email and I'll send you some of the stuff I've got on my data with Facebook and how the interaction process work, because the interaction side of it is really, really important. So, but I'm always happy to share that with anybody, because you're not in my, you're not anywhere near me. And one thing I forgot to mention, I know you're tired, I know you've got to go. So I don't know if you know, but do you remember Dan Kirby?
Yes.
He used to own Trade Price Cars. He was a really, really good friend of mine, and because obviously he was in Essex and I was down in Plymouth. We always used to share so many wonderful sort of like ideas, and I met him in the racing world, and I think that car dealers don't do it enough to each other, and this is what I was kind of hoping for from this podcast, is just come and meet some people that, you know, are prepared to share ideas, because whatever I share with you won't take anything away from me. You know, you guys, no one's anywhere near me, you know, and I just think it's, you know, none of it does any harm, that's for sure.
No, it's nice. There isn't anyone else who really seems to do this. And the other thing is it's a really old sort of theory that car dealers wouldn't want to talk to each other because it's like someone on their pitch or whatever. But I'm actually, as well as doing this, like the chat, I almost want to set up like a, we're going to do like Motor Trade Mentors. So if anyone wants to come on Motor Trade Mentors podcast, you can almost probably pick your guests. I'm sure you guys would be keen to come on, you know. But if we can almost build a network of people who are starting out, because I wish, you know, it's so hard for me. I would love to have had a mentor to say, this is the sort of thing, you shouldn't buy those because of whatever it is. So you should do this, and don't worry. So like James is saying, don't worry so much about being on AutoTrader and whatever else. You can do it other ways. There isn't really much out there for that. And I feel like actually the people in the motor trade, especially self-employed ones, are all quite open and willing to help each other out. So
dying to tell people how much trauma we've been through.
Exactly. Yeah, trauma bonding with each other.
Yeah, quite.
So James, where can everyone find you? Because you're all over social media, as you've told us.
For my racing, it's James Alford Racing. For the Platinum Car Centre, it's at Platinum Car Centre, and the Trade Centre is at Platinum Trade Centre. So those are the three that if you want to have a little whiz about and get amongst it. And then I'll privately send you my personal email address.
Perfect. No worries. Right. Well, thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
You guys have let me down completely today. You've been excellent guests, though, so I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll held them up. Don't you worry.
Yeah, sorted. Can I just say, James, mate, thank you for sharing what you've shared there. I really appreciate that on a personal level. So thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
We'll get you. We'll be able to make some notes now for future, just to pick James's brains and vice versa, and we'll do it again.
All right.
Yeah. See you on Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's it.